Hello, everyone. Hello. Hi, guys. How are you? Sorry about the weird angle. I'm just moving into this new apartment and haven't picked a shooting location yet for the show, but I'm here. Here we are. And I want to talk about something really important. Well, first, really important is this hair needs to, first of all, it needs to get cut. Second of all, why is it so stringy? I just don't understand. Anyways, okay, so this week on Sirius XM, Rosie O'Donnell premiered her new Rosie Radio. So exciting for me. I gotta tell you, I have what I feel like is a very long history with Rosie. We've never met. She was in the same room as me once in New York, and I couldn't say anything to her. But our history goes back before her talk show. I was a fan. When her talk show started, I remember I was in Alabama at the time because my grandmother was dying of lung cancer. So we spent a few months in Alabama with her, and that was when the Rosie O'Donnell show premiered. I think the first thing that I related to her immediately was we have the same initials, R.O. Both Irish. I'm Ryan O'Connor. She's Ryan O'Donnell. She's Rosie O'Donnell. And the apostrophe. Now, for Rosie, I think she grew up in an Irish community, and there was not necessarily an Irish community, but there were Irish people around her. And me, I felt very isolated by my apostrophe. Does that make sense? My apostrophe just felt like something weird in my name. I wasn't raised incredibly Irish or anything like that. The apostrophe was just a weird thing I had in my name. Years later, when I got my SAG card, when I went to go make sure that my name was available, which it was, I really hoped, somewhere I really thought that maybe Ryan O'Connor would be listed next to Rosie O'Donnell in like the SAG database. Really, that wasn't possible, but somewhere in my brain I really hoped it was. It didn't happen. But going back, when her show started, it was obviously an emotional time in my life, and it was an escape for me. And her show was such resonance for me because immediately she started, having tons of Broadway people on. Now, growing up in Arizona and, being in Alabama at the time, I had at that time actually never been to New York. And she made it so accessible, and she did stuff that was legitimate Broadway. It wasn't like other shows when people perform just the big hit number. Rosie knew how to bring in the right numbers, and people like us who couldn't be in New York but really did know our stuff about the theater, were able to see stuff that we couldn't see from across the country. And she really changed the way Broadway was represented in American pop culture, really, for this generation. And I always owe her a debt of gratitude. By the time I got to New York in 1999, because of Rosie, I knew what to expect from that community. I knew who the people were. I knew who the players were. And now almost everyone I know, all of my friends, were on Rosie back in the day. And we just never met. Years later, I ended up appearing a couple times on the Caroline Rhea show. And it was after, Caroline moved into Rosie's studio after Rosie left the show. And it wasn't, of course, the same show at all. But I felt it was very powerful for me to be in that studio and to be performing in that studio because it was Rosie's home, And I don't know. I always had a thing. So anyways, another person who I've always been a huge fan of, and it's always odd and people are always surprised by it, is that I'm a huge fan of Howard Stern. I'm not necessarily always a huge fan of his content, but I'm a huge fan of him as an entertainer and as a broadcaster, and his format for his show is flawless. It's constantly entertaining, so many vivid characters, so specific, detailed, and wonderful. And for years, I remember the feud between Rosie and Howard, right? It was like, it would kind of never stopped, and it always upset me when Howard would talk bad about Rosie. It made me so angry, but I still listened to Howard. So in this last year, or 2 years maybe, Rosie and Howard have made up, and Rosie ended up coming on the show, and then she was on the show again last week on Howard Stern, and they've made up, and now they're like conquering Satellite world together, which brings me to Rosie's new show on Sirius Stars called Rosie Radio. Now, the thing about this show that's a little problematic for me is that the timing is bad. It's on at 7 o'clock a.m. Pacific. Now, we all know I'm working on being more of a morning person, but 7 a.m. is pushing it. Not going to happen. But there are repeats. So throughout the day, I hear most of the show. She does the show from her home in Nyack, which just sounds fantastic. Today she was doing a show with Rufa, her friend Rufa, who she met at Halloween in Nyack. And it sounds like, it reminds me of the radio show from Northern Exposure, except it's Rosie O'Donnell, and it's such a great platform for her. Now, Rosie and I have gone through a lot. There was a time after she left the show, I felt really abandoned by her. I did. I'm not going to lie. It sounds weird, but I felt really abandoned by her. And then when she went through that whole phase after that, where she obviously there was a lot going on that we didn't know about at the time, and she was kind of acting out. I felt conflicted about how I was supposed to feel about Rosie. And we went through a long thing. By the time Rosie got to the View, and first was the Rosie.com. Excuse me, it's the coffee. First was Rosie.com, and then that was obviously an inspiration to me, because look at what I'm doing. And then she went to The View, and then Rosie and I were back. We were back, and when she left The View, I could not have been prouder. Was so proud of her, and have been really on her team ever since. And it's really wonderful. And even, we don't always agree. But I always value her opinion. The cruises are amazing. It's hard for me to hear what's going on with her and Kelly, and there's part of me that wants me to tell them to stop talking about it, because gay marriage is such a huge thing right now that I don't want gay divorce to be prevalent in the media, but they have to be honest about their relationship. I can't say that I'm necessarily against divorce, because some families need that to happen, or I know it's not divorce. They're going through a separation of some sort. Anyways, the point is, I've talked about Oprah on here a lot, and how much, and I always think about it when I'm not doing shows, that it's funny how much I talk about Oprah when really I should be talking about Rosie, because Rosie, as much as I adore Oprah and she's an icon to me, Rosie's always felt like a human influence on my life. And Rosie has been a much more powerful influence on my life than Oprah, if I really break it down. Anyways, the point is, I'm never up early enough to call into the show. I want to get in touch with the show somehow. First of all, if you don't have Sirius XM, go get it now so you can listen to Rosie. Not to mention millions of other things. And Seth Rudetsky on Broadway. I mean, it's endless what you can do on Sirius and XM. I hope someday Rosie has her own channel. I really don't love her being on Stars. I wish she had her own channel like Howard. She deserves that. Even if she only does a 2-hour show, she could do plenty of programming, like me. But anyways, the point is, next time I'm in New York, or even if it's a special trip, I really want to go to Nyack, and I want to hang out with Rosie, and I want to talk to her. It feels odd. I don't know her, but I think I'd have to stay with her. Which I think she might be okay with if she just realizes I'm not a crazy person. But I really want to kind of get in her brain and see what she's doing, because I think it's so important. And I love that her honesty, she's so honest in her life, and she's so honest to know that she needs someplace to speak out. And I understand that feeling. That's why I do this. And I think Rosie is so cool and so amazing. And I hope that, I'm kind of rambling here, but I have a lot of thoughts with Rosie that I can't get in under 10 minutes. But it goes beyond Broadway. It goes to the core of things that I love more than anything in the world, like Broadway. And I feel very similar to, I feel about Liza Minnelli the way she feels about Barbra Streisand. And we have we have so much in common that it's a shame that we've never met, I think. It sounds weird, but it's true. And I hope one day to change that. And I would really love to go see her set up in Nyack and see how she's doing this whole thing, because it's really inspirational to me. And I adore her. So that's all. I'm saying listen to Rosie Radio. The point is, I want you all to listen to Rosie Radio. The secondary point is, I hope to someday be able to chat with Rosie about what she does and how she inspires me. So, goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.